Now, I would like to ask you some questions about yourself. Have you ever visited a zoo? Have you ever visited a zoo? Now, I would like to ask you some questions about yourself. Have you ever visited a zoo? Have you ever visited a zoo?
Yes, absolutely. I have visited it before, and I think that it is a wonderful place for visitors, especially the landscape of the place. It allows me to immerse in the intriguing world where I can be myself and free my imagination.
How often do you visit a zoo?
Well, I visit the zoo once a year because the zoo don't change much. So once a year is a reasonable frequency for me to see some changes that happens to the zoo. Apart from that, I also enjoy visiting the zoo to see the animals.
Okay, here's my next question. Do you like listening to others singing?
Yes, absolutely. I enjoy listening to other people singing because I think that this is a great way to pay attention to people's voice and appreciate the beauty of their voice. Apart from that, I also think that it is a polite way to show my appreciation to them.
All right, let me ask you another question. Do you like history?
Absolutely, yes. I think that people should learn history in order to not repeat it again. We can learn valuable insights about our history so that we can create a better future for ourselves without repeating the same mistakes twice.
Have you ever been to historical museums?
Absolutely, yes. I have visited the local museums before, and they are great with ancient artifacts and skeletons of the ancient people and animals. I think that visiting the museum allows me to immerse in the past so that I can learn valuable lessons.
Right, okay. When was the last time you read about history?
The last time that I read about history was last summer. I read about the Vietnamese wars. It was terrible and killed a lot of ancestors of Vietnamese people. Ho Chi Minh City was the father of us.
Okay, let me ask you something else. What types of cars do you like?
I like electric cars because they are cost effective. They allowed me to save money from buying petrol, and it is really comfortable to ride in an electric car.
Do you prefer to be a driver or a passenger?
I prefer to be a driver because I want to lead the group. Apart from that, taking my families to places is my honor to show my love to my family members. Finally, I also think that it is a good way to spend quality time with my family members.
Now, I am going to give you a topic, and you will talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Remember to take notes. Please start speaking now.
Let me take a moment to describe a time when I and when I had to change my plan. It was last summer. I had a plan to go to the beach with my family members. We was really excited for the trip because we have always wanted to go there for a change. For most of our trip, we had gone to the mountains, but we had never been to the beach. So we was really excited, and we was looking forward to it. Unfortunately, when the traveling, when the departure day take place, we had to cancel the trip because of the extreme weather. It rained terribly, and we had to cancel our flight in order to protect our safety. At the end of the day, I think that it was reasonable to change our plans because at the end of the day, we cannot be sure about the external factors. We have to take different methods and go extra length in order to cope with the difficulties and hardships in order to achieve what we want in our life.
Earlier, we talked about describe a plan that you had to change recently. Now, I will ask you some more questions related to this topic. How does technology help people make plans?
I think that technology helps us make plans easier. Take an example of the memos in the apps, in the digital devices. I often store my notes inside the memo apps so that I can get access to it at any time and wherever I want. Apart from that, I also think that it is very convenient to type down my thoughts immediately, as I always put my phone inside the pockets, which is quite convenient for me to take it out and type down my ideas.
Why do you think parents still make plans for their children nowadays?
I believe that it is because children are still inexperienced and naive. They cannot think of all of the risks involved in the plan. So they mostly can only think of the benefits and the advantages instead of thinking of the whole picture. And as a result, the adults are there to help them involve all of the risks in their plan so that they can have a comprehensive preparation.
Would you tell others if you change your plan?
Yes, absolutely. I would tell other people that I changed my plan so that they can adjust their plans accordingly. This is especially true when it comes to my team. As a leader, I am aware of my team schedules so that we can meet up at the right time and don't waste each other's time unnecessarily.
Do people often change their plans?
Absolutely, yes. People change their plans a lot in order to adapt to the situation, and I think that this is normal and suitable. People need to do that in order to avoid burnout and unwanted situations in which they may cause disadvantages and inconveniences to the counterparts. Apart from that, I also think that it is suitable and reasonable for people to tell each other about their changing in the plan.
How do you think technology affects children's planning skills? Have you ever... How...
Well, I visit the zoo once a year, and I think that this is a reasonable frequency because the zoo don't change often. So visiting them once a year is reasonable to see some new things and events in the zoo. Well, I visit the zoo once a year, and I think I visit the zoo once a year, and I think that this is a reasonable frequency of visiting the zoo. As the zoo doesn't change often, visiting it once a year is reasonable to see some new changes in the zoo to excite me during each visit. I visit the zoo once a year, and I think that this is a reasonable. I visit the zoo once a year, and I think that this is a reasonable frequency of visiting the zoo. As the zoo doesn't change often, visiting it once a year is reasonable to see some new changes in the zoo to excite me during each visit. I visit the zoo once a year, and I think that this is a. I visit the zoo once a year, and each time I try to find something new in a zoo to visit and discover. Luckily, each year the zoo often organizes different events and workshops so that it can attract more visitors to raise the revenues of the zoo. I visit the zoo once a year, and each time I try to find something new in the zoo.
Do you like history? When was the last time you read about history?
The last time that I read about history was yesterday. I am really keen on Vietnamese history. I try to absorb as much information about history as possible because I know that this information will come in handy in the future, especially when it comes to new projects, as I don't want to repeat the same mistakes that our ancestors have made. The last time that I read about history was yesterday. I am really keen on Vietnamese history. I try to absorb as much information about history as possible because I know that this information will come in handy in the future, especially when it comes to new projects, as I don't want to repeat the same mistakes that our ancestors have made.
What types of cars do you like?
I prefer electric cars because they are cost effective. They allowed me to save money from buying petrol, and they are also offer comfortable rides. Driving electric car allowed me to enjoy a convenient and comfortable drive with my families compared to petrol cars. Apart from that, electric cars are easy to maintain as they don't have expensive spares. I prefer electric cars because they are cost effective. I prefer electric cars because they are cost effective. They allowed me to save money from buying petrol, and they also offer comfortable rides. Driving electric cars allows me to enjoy quality time with my family because we all enjoy the seats in the electric cars. Apart from that, electric cars are easy to maintain as they don't have expensive components. I prefer electric cars because they are cost effective. They allowed me to save money from buying petrol, and they also offer comfortable rides. Driving electric cars allows me to enjoy quality time.
Well, if I had to choose, then I would go for a small, compact electric car, like the one with plastic everyone's raving about these days. They're easy to park and safe for the environment, which is a huge plus for me. Plus, it helps me save on fuel cost, which is great.
Oh, I'm really into RVs. Honestly, I think living in one offers such a unique lifestyle that you just can't get anywhere else. I remember watching this cartoon where the main character traveled in an RV and it looked like a dream come true. Just the idea of hitting the open.
Why do you think parents still make plans for their children nowadays?
I think that parents still make plans for their children nowadays because they don't want to burden their children with the complexity of planning. Apart from that, parents want to involve their experience and insights into the plan of their children. Uh, Normally, children don't take into consideration of the risks while planning, so parents can supplies them with these information so as to make the plans more perfect. I think that parents still make plans for their children nowadays. I think parents still make plans for their children nowadays because they don't want to burden their children with the complexity of planning. Apart from that, parents want to help their kids with their experience and insights during the planning process. So as to help their children. Finally, normally children don't take into consideration the risks while planning, so parents can supply them with this information so as to make the plans more perfect. I think parents still make plans for their children nowadays because I think parents still make plans for their kids nowadays because they don't want to burden their kids with the complexity of planning. Apart from that, parents still want to supply their kids with the experience and insights because of their nature and characteristics of a parent. Apart from that, parents also want to make their kids' plans more perfect, as normally children don't take into consideration the risks of planning. I think parents still make plans for their kids nowadays. I believe that parents still make plans for their kids because they want to help their children with their experience and insights that they have culminated, cultivated during their lifespan. Apart from that, due to their characteristics as a parent, they often try to give a hand to their kids so that they kids can be free from the burden of preparation. Finally, as kids normally don't take into consideration of the risks, parents are perfect to give them insights about the risks involved. I believe that parents still make plans for their kids because they want to help their children.
Describe a plan that you had to change recently.
Let me take a moment to describe a time when I had to change my plan. It was last month. I had a plan to hang out with my friends in a coffee shop. We booked the place and we even paid the money firsthand. However, when the golden day come, the weather was raining heavily and we had to cancel our trip. Thankfully, the money was returned thanks to the kindness of the manager at that place. Apart from that, we had to change to indoor activities as we watch some celebrity shows and caught a flick, which was mostly romantic movies. Anyway, at the end of the day, that I think changing the plans was necessary, and I was satisfied with this change, as we was able to enjoy our day with each other despite the cancellation. Let me take a moment to describe a time when I had to change my plan. It was last. Let me take a moment to describe a plan that I had to change recently. It was last month. I had a plan to hang out with my friends in a coffee shop. We booked the place in advance and we even paid the money to preserve the table. However, when the golden day came, the weather was raining heavily and we had to cancel our trip. Thankfully, the money was returned because the manager was kind enough to do so, we had to change to indoor activities, as we couldn't go out for fun, and we had to resort to movies and celebrities shows. We caught a flick, which was mostly romantic movies, and my friends even baked a cake in my kitchen. Anyway, at the end of the day, I think that changing plans was necessary, even though it was unfortunate. I still think that it was necessary and essential so that we could enjoy the day with each other despite the sadness of cancellation. Let me take a moment to describe a plan that I had to change recently. It was last month. I had a plan to hang out with